Hello there, everyone, and a very happy Wednesday to you today. A very happy Wednesday morning, maybe, or afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm a little bit late. I just had a quick little technical issue, so we are up and running now. And the lovely Lydia is going to be behind the badge with answers to any of your questions that come up, as well as giving you links to all of the fun product that we're going to be using today. So my name is Sarah. I'm super excited to be here today with you guys, and thank you so much for joining me. I know that the YouTube lives are a little bit new, so if you've joined me for the All to New Facebook lives before, we're going to follow the same format. So I'm going to show you the product that I'm working with and show you the projects, and then we will jump right into our card making. So hello to the folks who have joined. Cece and Connie, hi from North Carolina. Good to see you guys jumping in. Thank you so much for being with us today. Oh, great name. Thank you. Do you mean my name? I can thank my parents. Lynn, hello. It's nice to see you on here. So it's good to see both some familiar names and some new ones too. Connecticut. Oh, see, you've got some thunderstorms. We have some here in Germany as well. In fact, we were eating dinner outside and we quickly came inside. We heard really dramatic thunder rolls. Paula, nice to see you. And home is where the craft is. I like that. Great to see you guys in here. Oh, more from Connecticut. That's great. Oh, Connie, your daughter's name is Sarah. Oh, she's an H-list Sarah too. There's not that many of us. So great to see you guys all coming in, and thank you so much. Just a little bit of housekeeping reminder for a lot of you regulars. We have the chance to win a $15 gift certificate to the All to New store. So if you share this video while we are live, so for about the next hour, we'll be working together, and you post in the comments, if you let us know that you've shared the video and also let us know how you've shared it, then you will be in the running for that $15 gift certificate. So some good stuff over on the All to New website, trust me, including the stamps that we're going to be playing with today. So I'm going to just show you quickly. This is the Weekend Doodles stamp set. And this is one that as soon as I saw it, I thought, I love this one. This is just perfect in so many ways. So what you've got in the stamp set, you've got two really pretty wreaths. If I hold this up, you can see one is a little bit more detailed. One is a more open design. You've got some floral motifs here. This little one, which is really, really versatile, and comes in, you can turn it in all different directions. You can do some cutting with it, which we're going to do tonight. You've also got a larger floral motif on here. Now the wreaths measure, they're about 3 inches tall, and then this motif here is about 4.5 inches. So, oh, I see somebody, Marian Emberson got you hooked. Marian's a good friend of mine, and she does get you hooked that way, in the best possible way. So I'm glad to see a friend of Marian's on here. We've also got some leaf motifs on here. We've also got some sentiments. Now, the sentiments, many of them are designed to fit inside this open space of the wreath on here. And the sentiments are like, you make my heart happy, sending happy thoughts. There's a welcome and be happy down here. So it's pretty typical All to New inspirational sentiments that always come in handy. Also typical for All to New, this is the packaging that you'll get with this. And it's a trifold. So when you get this, you can just unfold it. You've got project ideas on here, like so. And then you've also got them, hang on the inside here too. So it's a nice little inspiration guide to have on hand too. And then they also give you some, speaking of enabling, they give you some other stamp sets that will coordinate nicely with the stamp set that you have. So there's always something to find, I've discovered, with All to New. Now, I personally am not happy with fussy cutting around really detailed images like this. I'm sure I'm not alone in that. So if you prefer to have a die to do that work for you, there is also a die set here. So nice, high quality dies that match perfectly. So you've got all of the big motifs on here, and you can probably see I've got this in one of those storage pouches from Altenew, which is, I have to say, I bought a lot of them. I bought some for me, I bought some for my mom, and we both rave about these storage pouches because they're super sturdy, high quality. Got a little zipper on here. I never close it because I'm always dipping in and out, but they can hold the dies and your stamp set, plus this pretty thick trifold all together. I just store mine in standing up in a plastic box, and it works great for organizing. So if you're looking for a way to organize your stamps and dies and holding them all together so you're not rifling through to find matching dies, that's going to be the way to go. That's how I organize it. Some other things that we're going to be playing with today are the ink sprays. Probably a lot of you have these ink sprays already. They're not a brand new product, but for me, I find often that I'll get something like the ink sprays, you know, or I'll get like, oh, I don't know, a couple of them, and I'll use them and then I'll put them on a shelf and I'll forget them. So if you're like me and you've got these sprays and you've tucked them away somewhere, now's the time to get them out. So I always like to bring out some of those old favorite products, and then we can kind of have a play with those as well, incorporating them with some newer products. Now, speaking of new, there's also 2 pigment ink pads. I'm going to be working with the Antique Gold, which is a beautiful, soft metallic gold. And I'm also going to be working with Obsidian. So pigment inks are different than the, the little squares that I'm always using, those die ink pads, or the ovals that Altenew has. Die ink pads operate differently than pigment ink pads, and pigment ink pads are great for, you can do embossing with them because they're slow to dry, but they also give you just a really rich sort of opaque coverage. The Obsidian is by far my favorite black in my stash. Now, as a stamper, I've got lots of black ink pads. You know, it's kind of like having more than one pair of black shoes. You've got black ink pads for different things. And this black is beautiful. It's deep, it's rich, it's dark. It also works really nicely for detail stamping, which kind of surprised me. But you can see on this card that I've got a small sentiment on here. It's actually quite tiny. And the detail is not lost, even with a pigment ink pad. Now, sometimes pigment ink pads, because they're so juicy, kind of squash. So if you're looking for a great basic black ink pad, I can recommend the Obsidian. And I think everybody else really liked the Obsidian too. And last time I looked, they were low on stock or out of stock. But if you put your name and your email address in there, they will notify you when they are back in stock on the Altenew website if you can't find them at your local retailer. So if you go there and you think, oh, it's not available, it will be. Don't worry, and you won't be disappointed. So those are the products that I'm going to be working with today. So do some combinations there, and I'll just run through the projects that I'm going to show you, and then we can get into crafting. So I wanted to show you the metallic gold pigment ink and just how crisp and beautiful that fine detail can be done. Hi, Stacy. Oh, don't worry, you're not late. We're glad to have you here. And to versatile black, maybe you're meaning the VersaFine. I also like the VersaFine. What I really like about this one is that it is a pigment ink, and so it allows me to do embossing with it as well. So hopefully that answers your question. We're going to do a little bit of die cutting with some of our stamped motifs as well. I'm going to go through that. Then we'll get out the sprays. We'll do a little bit of spraying for our backgrounds and to do some coloring. And we're going to do some backgrounds that are not sprayed, but they are sort of scattered or spattered onto the background there. And then also, again, to do a little bit of coloring. And then the last card project, I did 5. I couldn't stop myself, so I just kept going. And then we're going to do some easy backgrounds using those color sprays and a brayer, and then also, again, a little bit of coloring. But what I wanted to point out to you, just as I've got this card in my hand, and I'll bring out this card as well, it is the same flower stamp, but they look totally different, not just because of the coloring, but also because there's a little bit of cutting and layering in there too. So we have a lot of fun things to take a look at today. So I'm going to stand up and tilt you down so that you can see my work surface and whatever else is on the floor behind me. I try and tidy up before we do these shows. I can't promise that you won't see a cat walking by. So if you do, that's totally normal. Okay, so let's start out with the first card project. And for this, I really just wanted to show you, this metallic ink because I love it. And I love how easily it stamps a really fine detailed design on here. So let me grab my Misty. And you don't have to have a Misty for this technique, but I just really find that I'm using my Misty quite a lot. Oh, here's my white cardstock. So I'm just going to pop this down. If you have a Misty, you know the drill. You use your magnets to hold everything in place. So I've got my white cardstock in here. And I'm going to grab this large flower motif and simply pop it down. Close this up, and I've got it clinging onto the other side here. And then I'll just grab my antique gold and ink this up. And then press this down. And then you can see it's some fine detail on there, and it just stamps so beautifully. Now, as I'm holding this, I think you can see there's a bit of a metallic shimmer. So it's a nice soft shine, but it's not really overly blingy. Now, what I've done here, let me just clean up this stamp for a second, and then I can pop it back onto my sheet because I wanted to show you with this. Now, I've got mine onto like an olive green cardstock base, which just makes for a really clean and simple design. But you could also put it onto cream, and that looks really pretty. You could do it on like a royal blue. I just pulled some blank cards from my stash just because I was playing, and I thought, oh, this could be kind of fun. I like it on the pink a lot. Or you could do it even on the light blue. Now, with this, what I've found is that this is the kind of motif I think works really well if you've got, if you like to have kind of like a stash of cards to have on hand. So this is a nice basic card design, but I think what you could do is make up lots of these, have them on hand, use them in different colors. You could keep the sentiment on here, add sequins or not, add the sentiment or not. You know, you could leave a space blank for any, you know, as needed card design. So you could even stamp a little happy birthday or something in there, add a ribbon. But it's a great design to have as a high impact, easy to recreate, even in mass design, and quite quick and simple, but also packs a nice design punch in there. So that is our first one. Now, if you want to move into a little bit of die cutting, so this is using the Wreath. Now, I pointed out before with the Wreath that you have two Wreath designs. So you've got one with some detailing on it, and then you've got a nice open design on here. So this is the one I'm using for this card project. And again, let me grab my Misty. And I've got a piece of green cardstock. And this is a little bit textured. I think you might be able to tell that there's a slight texture on here. It's not really bumpy like the watercolor cardstock that you might be used to. But it is slightly textured, which means that when I put this down, I really do like to use a stamp positioner because I'll probably want to stamp it more than once, just to make sure I have a really crisp design. So I'm going to pull off my stamp. And I'm going to pop it down here. Now, for this, I'm just going to be stamping to show this to you. But in real life, what I would want to do before I actually stamp this down is take my die and kind of make sure, not when the magnets are out, but make sure that I have the positioning on here so that I've got enough room to accommodate the die. So, you know, you want to use every little bit of space on here, but you don't want to scooch it too much in so that you don't have room for that die. Okay, I'm going to close this up. Move that in here. Ooh, apologies. I'm going to have a little bit of tea before I get into stamping this one, if you don't mind. And so with this, I'm going to stamp with the obsidian. Okay. And we'll see how this goes. Actually, I've got a pretty crisp design on here. I notice that I've got a little bit more over here. Maybe you want to add a bit more ink on the other side and just come back and do that one again. And then when I pull this off and move off my stamp, then you can see that I've got a really nice crisp design even on that lightly textured cardstock. And then all you need to do, of course, is play the game of turning this around until you can find where you've got your there you go, where you've got your various leaf elements. And what I like about this design is that although it is a pretty symmetrical design, it's not so symmetrical. There's always some kind of guiding area, a leaf that's a little bit bigger, that sticks out a little bit more, that can help you position that. Now, I know a lot of you are die cutting experts, or you do a lot of die cutting, but for anybody who's new with this, when you pop down your cutting die, generally I like to hold it in place with a little bit of masking tape before I run it through my die cutting machine. And I don't have a fancy die cutting machine, I just have the manual kind. So I'll just take a little bit of masking tape, and when I pop that masking tape down, I'm really making sure that the tape is mostly in the area that I don't have the design in, because when you run this through your die cutting machine, if you put the tape kind of in the stamped area, it can really get stuck in there. So you'll run this through your machine, and then you will have a piece that looks like this. Really pretty, really easy to do. I actually think you could maybe even do some stuff for Christmas with this one. So what I've done here is just taken a piece of cardstock as my background. So I've got the wreath, and then I also die cut, stamped and die cut the two leaves, doing these from craft cardstock. So I've got these, basically these three elements together. Now I've also got a message going on inside my wreath. So I've got the sending happy thoughts, and I just stamped this off onto, again, a piece of craft cardstock. And what I'll do is simply position this on here where I want it to go, kind of figure out where I want those leaves to go, and then take a little bit of whatever adhesive you have. I'm going to use a little bit of glue stick in this case, and just apply this around. You can use a double-sided tape. That's what I often like to go for. And just kind of position that, tack that down, and then what you can do is just grab a pair of scissors and sort of loosely kind of chop around there. And like so. It doesn't have to be perfect because you're just going to have, you know, the back of that. But then what you can do is start to play with the positioning, not only of your focal element, but also of your leaves. So in this case, I tucked one below, and then to balance, I've got a nice line going across like so. So you can see it's just a really easy composition. Now for the actual card project, I've got this part mounted up on foam tape, so you can see I've got a bit of dimension under there. I added a couple of sequins just to kind of create a larger focal element, a little bit of twine to give a sort of natural look to this. And then I put it all up onto a piece of white cardstock and then onto a card blank. Mixing green and craft cardstock with a white card. Yeah, I think it actually, when I was doing the cards for this, I thought the florals lend themselves so well to really springtime, maybe a bit more girly designs. I don't know if you would call them that, but I also like to have something that's a little bit more earthy and that can also work, you know, can work for the guys too. So I was hoping that going with earth tones might give just a different look with this. And again, really simple design. You could use colored cardstock as the background, but I thought white kind of made things pop out. And again, keep the sequins if you want, or swap them out for, you know, like maybe some metallic gemstones or something else. But lots of different options that you can do with this. So 2 card projects down. Now we're going to get into some spraying. So let me show you again the card project that I want to go through with you. So this is using sprays for the background. And for this one, I'm using Puffy Heart, and I'm also using Orange Cream. So the combination of the two. So when you think about spraying, you know, color sprays, you think about spraying techniques. So that's maybe the most obvious way to use them. We're going to use them for some other things too. First thing I'm going to do is bring in my spraying box. You can see I've used it for some other projects too. And I'm going to kind of cover up some other things on my work surface just to make sure I don't end up with some puffy heart walls, for example. And let me grab my cardstock here and another quick sip of my tea. Bonjour. Oh, hello, Chris. Bonjour. I'm so glad to see you. I've missed you the past couple of weeks, Christine. I've been out of the country, and normally I'm quite in touch on Facebook with the lovely Christine. So I'm glad to see you on. Okay, so a couple of things about the color sprays. The first thing is you need to shake them really well before you spray. Hi, Terry. Nice to see you. And when you shake them, if you listen like that, you can just hear the liquid going back and forth. But can you hear the mixing bowl in there? You want to get to that point before you start spraying. So this just means that everything is getting mixed. So I just mixed up the orange cream, and now for the puffy heart. Of course, with color sprays, what you're going to want to do is consider, you know, the angle from which you're spraying. You're going to want to consider how close you are to your paper. You can get lots of different effects with your color spray. So it just kind of depends. So for this one, I want to keep a lot of that white background. So I'm not trying to cover the whole thing. I'm not trying to work through a stencil. I'm just going to give a quick zap. So that was the puffy heart. And it is beautiful. And now for our orange cream. And for this one, I'm going to turn this around just so my angle isn't totally the same, and give another quick spritz there. And then I'm going to lift this out, and you can see. Now, unfortunately, the only thing you can't really see is that there is a metallic shimmer to the color sprays. And this is just such a beautiful effect. It's kind of like the ink pads. It's not a high gloss or a high glitter effect. It's just a really subtle and beautiful shine. I can see it in real life, but I know it's a little tricky to see it on the screen. But this is one of the beauties of the Altenew color sprays, the shimmer sprays. So now what you'll need to do with this is let it dry. So you can heat set it to dry it. You can blot it if you want to. You just want to make sure that you've got something that is dry. How are the sprays with bottles clogging? You have, okay, you have some, that's always the trick with any color spray, is that things can get clogged. I've not had these clogged. I've got 4 of them, and I've been working with them. I use them throughout my latest Altenew Academy workshop, which means I use them quite a lot. I never had a problem with them clogging. What you can do sometimes too is run the, let me get the lid off, run this part under some warm water, and that can help to maybe clear away. The other thing you want to do when you're done working with them for the end of the day is just be sure to clean off excess spray from the nozzle part on here. So that's what I'll do at the end of this session. But I've not had any problem with them clogging up. So yeah, I've been quite happy with them. Okay, so I've got my piece here. I'm going to set this one aside. I do have another piece that is already dry that we're going to use for kind of our demonstration purposes. Make sure I don't have it puffy hard all over my hands. Now I've went ahead and stamped and already die cut 2 of the same flower motifs. So this is one of my favorites from the stamp set. What I love about it is that it's really sweet on its own, but you can also, you know, you can kind of turn them around. You can create a border. I think this would be a really pretty border if you did multiples of this on a scrapbook page. You can, you know, create some really pretty different motifs. You can make a whole background with these. So I've got 2. I'm going to cut one of them apart, but first I'm going to do a little bit of painting with them. And for this, I'm going to use the orange cream. And what I'm going to do here is take out the whole, I call it the stem. I'm not sure quite what it's called. The whole tube, which is what the liquid goes up into when you're spraying. And I'm going to put a little bit of it onto my craft sheet. And I'm going to take a little bit of water as well and just kind of mist that. And I'm going to use a water brush. You can use a fine tip paintbrush if you want to. And just add a little bit of water to this. And then I'm going to fill in just the centers of the flowers. And I'll do this one too. I'm not worried about it being totally perfect because the design of the stamps has that, well, it's a Weekend Doodle effect. So it's not, it lends itself really well to some more casual looks. So you don't have to be too precise with this. And then let's see if I can pick this up. You've got a really sweet motif on there. It is versatile, Connie, I agree with you. And maybe, oh, there we go. Maybe you can see the shimmer of that orange. Really pretty. I love that. I'm going to just clean up this little puddle here. So think also of your color sprays, not just as sprays, but also as a painting medium. So what I'm going to do then is set those 2 aside while they are drying, and I'm going to pop down my already dried piece that I sprayed earlier. And you can see they're going to look really different. Let me grab the other one. Even if you're using the same, basically the same amount of color and the same direction and the same sort of distance, you're going to get something different every time. And I'm going to grab this leaf stamp down here. And when I'm playing with the positioning of this, I'm just going to first get some cat fur off there. How does that happen? And let's see, pop this around like so. And as I'm kind of playing with this, just sort of see where I want that leaf to go. Again, hold this down with my magnets. Pop this up. And again, with the lovely obsidian. Now, this paper that I worked on earlier is also slightly textured, so I'm probably going to want to do this twice. We'll see. Oh, actually, no, it looks really good. So, don't have to do twice at all. So I'm going to just clean off that leaf, set it over there with my other dirty stamps, and then I can take a look at how to use this for my background, but just look at how pretty that detail is on there. And so then what I've done is taken the two stamps and I'm kind of positioning this down for right now just to play with the positioning. So I've got one entire piece on here and then I've got the second one. This one I'm just going to cut apart and I'm going to cut it apart so that I'm trimming away the leaf section, so the top and bottom leaf section. So I'm basically cutting to have the flowers on here. It does not have to be perfect because you're going to hide some of these areas where it's not trimming quite perfectly. So I've got one big blossom and this one I'm just kind of tucking up here, and then I'm also going to cut off this other element, and let's see, where did I have that? I think I had that kind of going over here. I mean, you can really play with this. You can come up with lots of different effects. And then this flower kind of down here. And then when you've got it all sort of arranged in whichever direction you want it to go, what I generally tend to do when I get it to this stage is I take a quick photo of it, and then I can take everything apart and then glue things down and add things with foam tape if I want to, but then I don't have to sort of refigure it out again. So with the main card here, you can see that I've mounted up the main, like the one that I didn't cut, that main blossom, I've mounted that one up onto some foam tape. This bottom one is also on foam tape, but some of the other ones are just glued straight down. So again, I've got some depth on here. Now I've also got the little welcome that has just been stamped onto a strip of white cardstock, and that's also been foam taped on there. So I've got some nice layers on here. But I love that you really don't need to do a whole lot to those blossoms to just add a nice little pop of color. And again, with the color sprays, you get a nice little pop of color without having to, really do a whole huge background. And of course, because you've got the same color that you're using in the center as the background, then you know that it matches. So that is also a favorite for me. So pretty clean and simple, but also a nice fun splash of color on there. Okay, so we've got some more card projects for you. I have to say, I really got going with this stamp set. I actually have more cards that I've done with this, but I figured let's keep it to an hour because I could easily go over. Okay, so for our next card project is just doing some spattering here on the background and then stamping on top. So let's take a look at how to do this. So with sprays, you think of spraying with them. You can also do some other fun techniques with it. Namely, as we talked about pulling out the stem of this, you can also do that and you can get some cool looks too. So again, what I'm going to do is just grab my kind of cover pieces just so nothing goes onto the card projects that I have over to this side. And again, I'm going to use the orange cream, give that a shake, and the puffy heart. Now in this case, I'm going to take this out, holding it over my cardstock, and I'm working on a craft mat, so I'm protecting my work surface. I'm just going to give some taps. That's all you need to do. And you're getting, not only are you getting the color, I think you can see it's a little bit of dimension in there too, because of course you've got the beautiful shimmer medium in here too. So then this is with the puffy heart. And when you're doing this, you may want to turn your piece of cardstock around periodically, or you can leave it in the same place. So it gives you a different effect than spraying. And in fact, I can show you on one of my spray background pieces. A spray is going to get you a lot finer of a look, but this is going to really keep the circular elements of those, I guess you call them blobs, but that's going to keep the circular motif on there. Let me quickly clean up my craft sheet. This color spray is also really nicely easy to clean up too. So if you do get it onto your craft sheet or some other places, it does clean up pretty easily. Okay, so I'm going to move these aside. And again, you'll need to let this piece dry. So I do have another piece that is dry, but again, take a look. Same colors, same techniques, and you're able to get really different looks. So, which is also pretty fun. I'll set that one aside and then bring back in my Misty, pop this down. Now for this, I'm going to stamp my motif directly on here. So let's position this where I want it to go. You can kind of play with the positioning. And I'll just pop this down. And then again, grab that obsidian ink. Scoot this a little bit closer. There we go. And ink this up. And stamp this down. And you have just a really pretty, crisp, clean lines. I absolutely love it. So let's see, I'll clean this guy off somewhat, then set it over in my pile of inky stamps. Now I could leave this as it is because I think if you're looking for a quick and easy card design, if you do a couple of these backgrounds and you have them on hand, that you could really easily just create a stash of these, stamp on top of them, and you are set to go. And then you can use them as a black and white image. But I think I'd also like to add a little bit of color in here too. And to do that, I'm just going to use the same painting technique that we looked at with our last card. Before we do this though, if you're noticing, you know, there's some little blobs in here. I kind of like that effect and I like it with the finished card design. But if you did not like that and you didn't want these color blobs on there, simply die cut from the coordinating die set on scrap paper or cardstock or whatever, and then place it on top and use it as a mask if you want to get this spattering look on there without having those little dots in the design. So again, I'm just going to take a little bit of the color spray, and that's the puffy heart and orange cream. I'm really liking these colors together. I think they're really pretty. Now for the leaves, I'm using Mountain Mist. So there we go. Got the mixer ball going in there, and then put down a little bit of this. You don't need to pour it out. You can just sort of decant it little by little like this. If you have a pipette or some kind of tool, you can also sort of draw out the color on there. And I'll put a little bit of water down. Now for this, you can use your water brush, and I've got the Altenew water brush that goes with the watercolors. You can also use just a really fine paintbrush, so whatever you like to do. I always like to start with my lightest color, especially if I'm going to be working with the same brush and kind of cleaning it off in between. Now with this, I'm working with a pretty watery wash, and I'm not worried about it being perfect. Again, because we've got a doodled look to the stamps, you can have a doodled and casual look to your coloring as well. So let's get some of the red, or excuse me, puffy heart, and paint this in too. So this is going over some of those spritzed areas, and it is not reconstituting the dots that are already on here. So if you were thinking, oh, maybe it will just smear that around, it's not. But I did make sure that it was really well dry before stamping on it. So I did the spritzing or the spattering earlier today. Okay, color this in. And the nice thing about this is that you can also, once this is dry, you can go back and add more color to it if you want to. water here. And you can blend the colors together if you want to. I'll show you that in another card project. So if you wanted to, you could come back again, got a little bit darker blend now, and just add some more color in the centers or to highlight some areas. If you want to. If you want to do some shading and things, you can definitely do that. Or you can just keep it quite loose and casual. Okay, so for our green leaves, this is the mountain mist, and I'm just going to quickly color those in. And these are really easy to do. Again, not really worrying about the lines on there. I'm not worried about the stem either. If you wanted to, you could kind of go along and create sort of a shadow effect with the stems with your brush if you wanted to do that too. Maybe I want to add a little bit more definition on that green. So grab a little bit more color here. And add some more depth in there as well. So then you've got a quick and easy colored motif. Again, you can do this with a spotty background, or you can do the spotty background after if you wanted to have a masked effect on there. I kind of like it with those spots showing through though. I think it just adds another really fun layer on there. And so then we've got our finished card that looks like this. And I've added a little Be Happy down here. Again, this would be a really fun design that if you wanted to have just kind of a stash of cards on hand that go for any theme or occasion, you could just leave off the sentiment or keep the sentiments quite generic like we've done here and have those on hand. They complete the card. Yeah, the sentiments definitely do, Connie, you're right. Okay, we're doing pretty well on time, so I have one more card project to share with you if you are up for it. And this is our blended background. So let's take a look at this one. Again, I'm going to start with a piece of smooth white cardstock for this, and I'm going to be using 3 of the colors. So again, my puffy heart. I'm not a pink person, but I love this puffy heart. It's one of my favorite colors kind of across the color palette. The orange cream, and I will also use the mountain mist. So have these all on hand. Again, kind of cover up some of the other stuff on my desk. Just pop those down. And the same way we did before with just tapping on that color. So that's the puffy heart. And I'm going to work pretty quickly because I don't want one to dry much more quickly than the others. Tap down the orange cream, and then this is the mountain mist. Who names these? I love the names. Okay, so I've got the colors on here. Now, again, I could leave this as it is, but in this case, what I'm going to do is just grab my brayer, little handy rubber brayer, and I'm going to brayer this just in one color back and forth. And that's going to give me a really simple sort of semi-blended effect. So you're getting the effect of the colors being somewhat separate. They're not over blended, but it also gives you a really soft and pretty look. And this is where you can start to see some of the shimmer that comes with that color spray. So one trick that you want to keep on hand when you're brayering this, it's one color, goes one direction. So you don't want to, kind of scuffle it all over your background. You do want to keep it going one direction, and then you can roll it back. Super duper easy. And this is another fun way to use those color sprays. So I tend to, I don't know if you guys are like me in this sense. I tend to often think of, okay, it's a color spray. It says color spray on the bottle, so I need to spray with it. but there are a lot of other things that you can do with your color sprays. So think of them, you know, outside of just the spray nozzle. So once I let that dry, then I'm ready to use it for my background. With the card focal element on here, I've simply painted it in. Now I've painted it in using the same colors we just looked at, and I'm going to just kind of do this one quite quickly for you. So again, that's the Mountain Mist and the Orange Cream and Puffy Heart. Again, just pop them down onto your whatever non-porous surface you're working on. Quick spritz, and my brush is probably a little bit in need of a clean, but that's okay. And again, let's see, let's start with the green here. So I've stamped this and die cut it. You could do the painting before you do your die cutting. Just make sure it is totally dry before you run it through your die cutting machine. Otherwise you can get some smearing and blurring on there. So that is the green. Like try and clean this brush off a little bit more. And then pick up some of the orange. And let's see, I just did the petals. I didn't do the inside. You can do the inside if you want to as well. And let's see, pop this color down. Now, while the color is wet on these leaves, I'm also going to work in some of the watery Puffy Heart. So you can kind of let that blend together a little bit. Let's see if I can do this in midair. You can blend that color in there. And again, I'm not worried about this being perfect, especially since I'm doing it in midair. But for the real card, I didn't worry about the color being perfect. Because it is that beautiful doodled effect, you can have a little bit more freedom with it. You don't have to worry about it being totally perfect. Now I left the flower centers white, but you could color those in as well. If you wanted to add more detail, you could definitely do that. Maybe I should put this one down for this. And come back in and just add a little bit more color where some of that doodling is. That's also a fun look. Gives you a little bit more detail. You could also come in with some of the artist markers too if you wanted to. So that just gives you a really pretty sort of variegated look. Now the other thing that I like to do when I'm adding die cuts onto a colorful background, because sometimes if you just pop that down, it can get a little bit lost. It's a smaller design, and it can be overwhelmed by the background. So what I like to do then is die cut the same shape from black, or you could do from navy or brown. Gray is a good one. Glue the two together slightly offset. So you're not gluing them straight one on top of the other, but just put them together and then kind of scooch them over. And then when you put it down, especially if you put it down onto foam tape, it's got a shadow effect to it. So it helps it to stand out from that background, but it also saves you from cutting like a matted layer to go around all around the outside edge. I think I mentioned I'm not big into fussy cutting, so I wouldn't want to do that, but this gives you a nice sort of trick idea with that, and that'll give you a little bit more dimension. Now I've popped this up onto foam tape because I like to have that extra lift, and then added one of the sentiments from the collection. So that is our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5. Okay, so we've got quite a lot of cards. I do have one other one. I'm not going to demonstrate it for you, but because it's using all of the same techniques that we've just looked at. But I did want to show this one to you because this is another way to use that wreath motif. Now with the other wreath that we looked at, it's got the detailing on it. This one does not have that detailing on it. So by detailing, like the lines going on to the leaves, this one is just an open design. It reminds me of that leaf canopy stamp set, which I also adore. These go really well together. And for this one, all I did was color it in with the Mountain Mist, then the same technique that we just did, but I stamped it with the gold first. So it gives it a softer look rather than the really high contrast of the black. And that spattering is Lagoon. So I just did the same spattering look. You could spray your background if you wanted to too. And this is just another, it was a quick and easy card design, but I thought, ooh, I'm going, I can't stop. So I thought I would just knock out one more. So what I'm going to do is stand up quickly as we're just about out of time. Cece, thank you as well. Thank you for joining us today. So, and thank you to everybody else. So we have just a couple more minutes. I'm going to give you a quick flash through the cards again. You have a few more minutes to share the video. And again, let us know that you shared and let us know how you shared. And then you can be entered into that $15 gift certificate at the Altenew store. So again, just taking us quickly through the project. So this is with the metallic gold. And I think, I'm not sure, Sue, if it was you that pointed out that the enchanted gold is the darker color. So you are right. In my demo, I used the wrong gold. The antique gold is also beautiful, but the enchanted gold was what I should have been using for my demo. And both will give you a beautiful effect. Can't find the other one. Where did it go? But, whoops. They will both give you a beautiful effect, but you can see this one is the antique gold, and it is a softer look. This is a little bit brighter. So thank you for the correction. I appreciate that. Both of the golds are gorgeous. But this is a simple design with the gold, or you can take that same stamp and get a completely different look from it. I love that. You like the brighter gold? I like them both, I have to say. I'm hard pressed to make a choice on them. Then we've also got something a little bit, maybe more masculine. I don't know, a little bit more earth tones. I think I'm the only one who's a little bit anxious for autumn to start kicking in. So I was getting out all of my earth tone cardstocks. Then of course you can do some coloring with your color sprays. You can do some spraying with them, which is probably what they were designed for. You can also, of course, use them with a brayer to get a really pretty background. Terry, thank you for sharing. So we have whizzed through card designs. Oh, and our bonus card project. I'll work up some instructions for these and have them posted up online so that you can take another look at them, a closer look as well. So we have whizzed through lots of projects using our Weekend Doodles stamps and die set. So I hope that if you are somebody who already has the stamp and die set, that I've given you some inspiration and hopefully inspired the rest of you with some cool techniques as well, and especially using your color sprays. So if you have some of these and you did what I did, put them on the shelf, grab them and get them out and see what else you can do with them. So maybe even that brayer technique, maybe a little bit challenge to you. Some homework, grab your brayer and do some really fun background techniques and see what you come up with. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you to the lovely Lydia for giving all the information behind the badge. Thank you very much. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening, the rest of your week, and I will see you again for another live next month, which is coming up soon. I think it's August 7th that we're going to be doing some more stamping together. So I've got a couple more lives next month, and I will be looking forward to seeing you all there. So take care, have a great rest of the day, and thank you so much for joining me. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.